Your design appears to be sound and compliant with the applicable National Electrical Code requirements. Here are a few suggestions for optimization. Firstly, circuit sizing. You have correctly calculated the branch circuit amperage using the 1.25 multiplier for continuous duty motors. However, you can further optimize the circuit sizing by considering the simultaneous operation of the motors. Since all 12 motors are likely not operating simultaneously at full load, you may be able to reduce the branch circuit size accordingly. To determine the actual maximum simultaneous load, you will need to consult the motor manufacturer's data or conduct a load analysis based on the specific application. Secondly, wire selection. Your choice of #8THHN for the branch circuit is appropriate for the calculated amperage. However, you may consider using #6THHN if the future load requirements or voltage drop calculations warrant it. Thirdly, fuse sizing. You have selected 20 amp fuses for the individual tapped circuits to the disconnects. While this provides some oversizing, you could potentially use 15 amp fuses if the motor nameplate currents allow. Fourthly, panel breaker. Your selection of a 40 amp breaker in the panel is appropriate for the 36.75 amp branch circuit load. However, if you reduce the branch circuit size based on the simultaneous load analysis, you may be able to use a smaller breaker. Fifthly, cost optimization. While you mentioned that cost is not a major concern, there may be some potential cost savings by using a more efficient load allocation strategy. For example, if the motors are operating in different zones or areas, you could consider splitting them into multiple branch circuits to reduce the overall load on each circuit. Some general recommendations to keep in mind. Ensure that the motor disconnects are rated for the appropriate horsepower and voltage of the motors. Provide a separate disconnect for each motor for ease of isolation and maintenance. Follow proper grounding and bonding practices to ensure the safety of the installation. Keep the wiring neat and organized to facilitate future maintenance and troubleshooting. Overall, your design is sound and compliant with the National Electrical Code requirements. By considering the suggestions above, you may be able to further optimize the installation for efficiency and cost effectiveness. Let's delve deeper into these points. When sizing the circuit, remember that the National Electrical Code provides guidelines, but the specific application is key. Article 430 covers motors, motor circuits, and controllers. When dealing with multiple motors on a single circuit, 430.24 is essential. It dictates how to calculate the minimum ampacity of the conductors. The calculation you performed, taking 125% of the highest rated motor plus the full load currents of the remaining motors, is the standard approach. However, as mentioned, real-world applications rarely see all motors running at their maximum load simultaneously. To accurately assess this, consider the duty cycle of each motor. Is it continuous, intermittent, periodic, or varying? Continuous duty motors are expected to operate at their full load for 3 hours or more. Intermittent, periodic, or varying duty motors have specific run times and idle times that impact the overall load. If you have data on the operational patterns of these motors, you could apply demand factors. Demand factors are multipliers less than 1 that reduce the calculated load based on the statistical probability of simultaneous operation. Consult with the facility operators or use data logging to gather information on motor run times and loads. If it can be demonstrated that the motors collectively draw significantly less current than the calculated value, a smaller conductor size may be permissible. Remember to document these assumptions and calculations for future reference and inspections. Now regarding wire selection, #8THHN is a common choice for motor circuits, but consider voltage drop. Voltage drop occurs due to the resistance of the conductors and is more pronounced over longer distances. Excessive voltage drop can cause motors to run inefficiently, overheat, or fail prematurely. The National Electrical Code recommends limiting voltage drop to 5% from the source to the farthest motor. To calculate voltage drop, use the formula volts drop equals 2 times K times I times D divided by Cm, where K is the conductor material constant, approximately 12.9 ohms circular mils per foot for copper. I is the current in amps. D is the one-way distance in feet, and cm is the circular mils of the conductor. For #8THN copper, the circular mils is 16,510. If the calculated voltage drop exceeds the 5% limit, you must increase the conductor size. Using #6THN, which has a circular mils of 26,240, will reduce the voltage drop. Also, consider the ambient temperature and conductor termination temperature ratings. Higher ambient temperatures reduce the ampacity of conductors. Ensure that the conductors are rated for at least 75 degrees Celsius at the termination points, as this is a common requirement for motor control equipment. For fuse sizing, you've opted for 20 amp fuses for the motor tap circuits. This provides extra protection and may simplify stocking only one fuse size. However, using 15 amp fuses, if permissible by the motor nameplate data and the National Electrical Code, could provide more precise protection against overloads. Article 430.52 specifies the maximum rating or setting for motor branch circuit, short circuit, and ground fault protective devices. For inverse time circuit breakers, the rating typically should not exceed 250% of the motor's full load current. For fuses, this value varies based on the type of fuse. Dual element time delay fuses are often used for motor circuits because they can withstand temporary motor inrush currents without opening. These fuses typically have a maximum rating of 175% of the motor's full load current. Check the motor nameplate for the full load current and the manufacturer's specifications for the recommended fuse type. If the motor nameplate full load current is less than 8.57 amps, a 15 amp fuse is appropriate. If it's higher, you may need to stick with the 20 amp fuse. Just be certain that the fuse rating doesn't exceed the limits specified in Article 430.52. Regarding the panel breaker, your choice of a 40 amp breaker is suitable for the calculated load. However, if you implement demand factors or reduce the conductor size based on simultaneous operation, you can reduce the breaker size accordingly. The breaker protects the entire branch circuit from overloads and short circuits. It should be sized to protect the conductors based on their ampacity. If the conductors are rated for 40 amps, a 40 amp breaker is appropriate. If you reduce the conductor size, the breaker size must also be reduced to match the conductor's ampacity. Remember that the National Electrical Code 240.4b allows the next higher standard over current device rating to be used if the conductor ampacity does not correspond to a standard over current device size. However, this exception has limitations, particularly in motor circuits, so always verify its applicability. On the topic of cost optimization, consider the overall system efficiency. High-efficiency motors, while more expensive initially, can provide significant cost savings over their lifespan due to reduced energy consumption. Conduct an energy audit to determine the potential savings of upgrading to premium efficiency motors. Also, consider using variable frequency drives. Variable frequency drives allow you to control the speed of the motors, matching their output to the actual demand. This can significantly reduce energy consumption, especially when the motors are not running at full load continuously. Variable frequency drives also offer soft start capabilities, reducing the inrush current during motor startup, which can further reduce stress on the electrical system. If the motors are serving different zones or areas, consider splitting them into multiple branch circuits. This allows you to isolate problems more easily and reduce the overall load on each circuit. It also provides redundancy. If one circuit fails, the other zones can continue to operate. When running multiple branch circuits, carefully plan the conduit routing to minimize the amount of conduit and wire required. Use cable trays or wireways where appropriate to consolidate multiple circuits. Now, some general recommendations for motor installations. Ensure that the motor disconnects are readily accessible and clearly labeled. Each motor must have a disconnect switch within sight of the motor location. This allows for safe isolation of the motor during maintenance and repairs. The disconnect switch must be rated for the motor's horsepower and voltage. Use properly sized and installed conductors for the motor terminations. Follow the motor manufacturer's instructions for wiring and grounding. Use appropriately sized conduit and fittings to protect the conductors. Ensure that the conduit is properly supported and secured. Grounding and bonding are crucial for safety. Properly ground all motor frames, enclosures, and metallic conduit. Use a dedicated equipment grounding conductor sized according to the National Electrical Code 250.122. This conductor provides a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, tripping the overcurrent device and preventing electrical shock hazards. Keep the wiring neat and organized. Use cable ties and labels to identify conductors and components. This will make future maintenance and troubleshooting much easier. Document the installation thoroughly. Create a wiring diagram showing the location of all motors, disconnects, and control panels. Keep a record of all motor nameplate data, conductor sizes, fuse sizes, and breaker ratings. This documentation will be invaluable for future maintenance and troubleshooting. Now consider a specific hypothetical example. Suppose you have 12 1.5 horsepower, 460 volts motors. Each motor has a full load current of 3 amps according to the nameplate. You've calculated the branch circuit ampacity as 36.75 amps using the 125% rule for the largest motor. You've selected #8 THHN conductors, which have an ampacity of 50 amps in a 75°C environment. You've also selected 20 amp fuses for the individual motor tap circuits and a 40 amp breaker for the main branch circuit. To optimize this design, consider the following. First, assess the simultaneous operation of the motors. Suppose you determine that only 8 motors are likely to operate simultaneously at full load, while the other 4 motors operate at 50% load. The revised calculation would be 3 amps times 1.25, which equals 3.75 amps for the largest motor. Then, 7 motors times 3 amps equals 21 amps. Then 4 motors times 1.5 amps equals 6 amps. Adding those together comes to 3.75 plus 21 plus 6, which equals 30.75 amps. Based on this revised calculation, you may be able to reduce the conductor size to #10 THHN, which has an ampacity of 30 amps in a 75°C environment. However, always verify the voltage drop calculation to ensure that it remains within the 5% limit. Next, re-evaluate the fuse sizing. Based on the motor nameplate data, if the full load current is slightly less than 8 amps, you may be able to use 15 amp fuses for the individual motor tap circuits. This provides slightly better overload protection. Then, reconsider the panel breaker size. If you reduce the conductor size to #10 THHN, you will need to reduce the breaker size accordingly. A 30 amp breaker would be appropriate for a #10 THHN conductor. Finally, explore energy-efficient motor options. Consider replacing existing motors with premium efficiency models. These motors can reduce energy consumption by several percentage points, resulting in significant cost savings over their lifespan. Also, consider using variable frequency drives to control the speed of the motors and match their output to the actual demand. Remember to consult the National Electrical Code, local electrical codes, and the motor manufacturer specifications for detailed requirements and recommendations. Always perform calculations and document your assumptions. Work with a qualified electrical engineer to ensure that the design meets all applicable codes and standards. Safety is paramount. Always de-energize circuits before working on them. Use appropriate personal protective equipment. Follow proper lockout-tagout procedures. Motor control circuits often involve complex wiring and control schemes. Familiarize yourself with the control circuit diagrams and understand how the various components interact. Troubleshooting motor control circuits requires a systematic approach. Use a multimeter to check voltages, currents, and resistances. Isolate the problem to a specific component or section of the circuit. Replace faulty components with like-kind replacements. After completing any work on a motor control circuit, thoroughly test the system to ensure that it is functioning properly. Verify that all motors are running smoothly and that all safety devices are operational. Also, consider the environmental conditions in which the motors are operating. High humidity, dust, or corrosive atmospheres can damage motors and control equipment. Select motors and enclosures that are rated for the specific environmental conditions. Use appropriate corrosion-resistant materials and coatings. Implement a regular maintenance program for the motors and control equipment. This program should include periodic inspections, cleaning, lubrication, and testing. Keep records of all maintenance activities. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that the motor installation is safe, efficient, and reliable. Continuous learning and professional development are essential for staying up to date with the latest technologies and best practices. Attend industry conferences, take continuing education courses, and read trade publications to expand your knowledge. The field of electrical engineering is constantly evolving, and it's important to stay abreast of the latest developments. The information provided here is intended as a general guide and should not be considered a substitute for professional engineering advice. Always consult with a qualified electrical engineer for specific design and installation recommendations.